Welcome to the Nerdtastic in 3D podcast.
It's Nerdtastic in 3D. Oh, it's Nerdtastic in 3D. Yes, it's Nerdtastic in 3D. It's Nerdtastic in 3D.
Check it out.
In the time of economic crisis that is 2013, I'm going to try to expedite our opening. Welcome to Nerdtastic. Here's a podcast. Jason, Jack, Josh, Sean, go.
How does that?
Name? You forgot Adam.
We're saving space. Go. Podcast time. Go.
How does that? Hold on, Adam. How does that affect the economy?
If I have to dive into this with you right now,
Personally,
we're wasting time.
No. We have nothing but time.
Exactly.
We're wasting time. Hard drive space equals time, which equals money. Facts. Someone go ahead and calculate that. But seriously, welcome to Nerdtastic in 3D. We're a podcast. We talk about stuff. Why am I doing this again?
Can we take this away from him?
Why am I
Jason?
doing this again?
You are fired.
I thought I did it bad enough last time that I wasn't going to get asked to do it again.
Nope, we're quite the opposite, actually.
No.
That's fine.
You've just earned yourself some responsibility.
Yeah.
Welcome to the world of animation. You've been laid off.
Oh. Cool. Do I get to go home?
No.
Damn it.
You need to work and not get paid. That's the other. That's our other business model.
Oh my god, I heard that for like 3 days straight.
Is that from the toy?
It is.
Oh my
The
gosh.
toy is awesome.
Literally this morning, that same sound woke me up through the baby monitor. Because Mike Troll got one for Eloise. It's ridiculous.
Go ahead, Jason. Give us a real intro.
And then you know
that was
that
a great
shitty
intro.
dog.
I got all of us.
That's the new intro.
I got all of us.
That's the intro.
What's that shitty dog app where like the kids like push him and he farts and shit and you talk at him and he repeats it back to you? Have you guys seen this shit?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like
Kearney, did you make that?
Tom
So-
the cat.
so-
Yeah.
You make
So
that.
for like
Mine wasn't a dog though.
for like 2 hours
baby?
straight, my kids were just doing the dan 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 into that, and then they'd come back and go dan dan dan, and then they'd laugh for like 5 minutes straight, and then they do it again.
Hey, I have a fun story that you and possibly you will appreciate.
No one knows who you're pointing at.
Because their name's Sean.
Yeah.
Sean
There's a video. They do
and
know.
Sean. So I'm in a. I can actually say this now. This has been released. So Planes had a full spread in the USA Today this week,
Woo! Yeah.
which is awesome.
Spread Eagle planes, yeah.
Come on.
Where,
First in flight.
where we announced that the rest of the voice cast and just some little bit about the movie or whatever. But so I have to admit that I didn't know all of the cast members.
Yeah, apparently Sean and Sean are both cast members.
Nope.
Yeah,
You're the,
I'm on it.
I'm curious
check
why
it out.
these two are going to like it.
Yeah, I'm getting there. You already know the answer.
Well, I know, but I want to know why they specifically
So
are going to like
I have a
this.
review today where I'm showing a director the final version of one of the sequences I've been working on. Okay, this isn't for Planes; it's for some ancillary content regarding like some stuff for the Disney Channel that like promotes the movie.
Ancillary. That's a good word.
So it's this sequence that kind
word of the day.
of shows off a one of the characters, which is very cool. And I didn't really know who. I recognized the voice of the actor, but I had no idea who this person was. I even seen like what they look like. I have no idea who they are, but I was like, all right, I've come familiar with the voice. So I'm sitting in this review with the director, and some dude walks into the review. Don't know this guy at all. Never seen this guy before in my life. Sits down. I look around the room. Everybody else, all the producers, production managers, everybody in the room, they act like this is no big deal. I'm sitting here going like, this is a stereo review for one of my sequences. This is for me to show the director my work. Who's this guy? And
Who's this guy?
and so
Who's this guy?
I'm like, all right, whatever. Maybe he's security. And so we watch the sequence.
Happened to be Snoop Dogg.
And the director really likes it, and the director goes, that was great, really, really happy with it. Good job, everybody. Turns to me, good job, Jason. Then I hear this guy turn and go,
This fucking guy.
hey, everybody, awesome work, really liked it. Thanks so much for having me. I'm like, who is this guy? Turns out it's the voice actor of the character who happens to be Roger Craig Smith, who voices Ezio for Assassin's Creed franchise.
No way.
All right.
Ezio.
Here's what I have to say.
Really, yeah, great.
I thought it was gonna be Brendan Fraser. I was convinced it was gonna be Brendan Fraser.
Here's what I have to say.
I would have recognized
Yeah, that's what I
B-Dog,
thought.
as
But
I
here,
call him.
so having listened to the story twice in the last hour, I think it got better the second time.
Okay.
How many times have you told it?
Just the 2 times. But I will say this: we're on radio now. You gotta up the entertainment.
That's what I'm
value
saying.
when you're on radio.
I think you did a very good job considering you told it so
He
close
did
together.
point out the two people who've actually played Assassin's
Yeah, exactly.
Creed.
I played it.
Dramatic.
But you'd
pause.
already heard
You
it.
don't really count
But you'd heard the story
for much
before.
of anything.
So yeah, so actually, you, Adam, were the one flaw in this story because you kept pushing him towards like, why did you say Sean and Sean when really it was quite
Was
obvious,
it specifically because they hadn't heard it or because they played Assassin's Creed?
or both, probably.
I still
I
don't
was
know.
thinking both. Had you not heard the story originally, you would have been included in the count.
Oh, that's nice.
I do like that you and I, because I've been in these scenarios that you kept questioning yourself, going, "Who the fuck is this?" Because anybody in this room who, outside of Kearney, and I'm sure in the gaming world, there's an equivalent. Maybe if the, I don't know,
Like if some random dude
but
showed
Bendy
up
was
to
there,
a playtest.
and like their big CEO was there, whatever.
yeah.
But this happens like for director reviews quite often. You don't know who's going to be in there. In our case, maybe Jeffrey shows up and is sitting in the back, which wouldn't happen. He'd sit in the front of the room. But if he did, you'd sit there and you're like,
Not
whatever,
be
who the-
Bill.
whoever it was.
Bill
But
would show.
somebody might show up and you might not know who the hell. You're like, in your head, you're like, I'm trying to show some shit. Stop talking over my fucking meeting.
He wasn't talking. He was sitting there all quiet, which was more concerning.
Would you have been starstruck if you knew who he was from the get-go?
Actually, no. Now that I know who he is, it's like, oh yeah, hey,
Yeah,
it's
pretty
a-
inconsequential.
yeah. But I just thought.
What if he was more disapproving? He just kind of was shaking his head like, you bastard.
What if he stabbed you with swords?
He had little.
What have you
knives.
done to my voice?
I love that we take it to
Are you
some other
asking me
place.
if I would have been more starstruck if he was unimpressed with my work?
I know. I just want to know more about what your emotions would be if he was just sitting there, just shaking his head and scowling at you.
I'm kind of upset that he didn't stab the two people next to him before
Yeah.
he left.
Or,
I know.
or if he wasn't wearing 3D glasses, looked down and goes, "This movie fucking looks like
It's super blurry. Like
That's what I was waiting for you to say. I was waiting for you to come back and be like, "This fucking, you guys are doing
mean,
it wrong. Nobody's gonna want to see the movie like that."
I didn't
guy.
drink that much.
How amazing would that
no.
be, guys? I think is
There's
the
something
projector
wrong.
in focus?
So here's a funny story along those lines. I was doing previs for National Treasure 2, and a friend of mine it calls me up randomly, and Josh knows him too. My friend Todd, I used to work with back at Disney in Orlando, who lives out here now. And he's like, "Hey, I got an invite to a screening to something. Do you want to go?" And for whatever reason, my girlfriend was busy, and it was close to work. He's like, "It's right there in Santa Monica. Do you want to meet up with me?" I'm like, "Sure, I'll get out of work early. I'll go meet you, dude." And he's like,
he didn't tell you what it's for?
No, and he didn't tell me really where it was at first. It
was a bro
No,
date.
he didn't know.
It was a
this
blind
is
bro date.
This is
Blind
one of
bro
the
date.
ones he got like you get emailed about or whatever else. Like, hey, do you want to sign up? You don't know the movie.
Yeah.
Like you're just going. So I go over and I'm looking at the address. I'm like, fuck, I want to say I've been here. So I show up and there's a line out front of people and I'm like, this is Bruckheimer's studio. Like Bruckheimer owns a small studio in Santa Monica where, with editing bays, a sound booth. It's really it's a tiny place, and I'm like, and I had just been there 2 days before to sit down with the editor of the film to cut some of my previs in to work out the final sequence, and I'm like, why am I here? Maybe they're just using the screening room. So we get in him. I'm like, but I'm still nervous. I'm like, maybe I shouldn't be because it's a test group. Like you're there as a test. It's a really,
And they don't want
dude,
you
this
to be
isn't
in
like,
the entertainment industry.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, that one is a given. So people who
Yeah.
are listening to this out in LA, they're if you go to any movie theater out front, they want people to come test movie. It's very common. You could actually see. You could probably never pay for a movie if you had time on your hands.
Yeah.
You could probably never have to pay for a movie in LA if you knew what you were doing.
You'd never see it finished, probably.
Probably. You probably wouldn't, but you would get to see almost every movie before everybody else. So I'm looking at the group who's out there, and it's literally only 15 people. I'm like, holy shit, this is a real test group. So I'm like, Todd's looking at me, he's like, are you cool? I'm like, yeah, I'm just going to put down, I'm like, I work at Pizza Hut or something. So I did, or retail. I said I
'Cause
work
that's
with
the
him
one
at the
thing,
Gap.
When they offer you these tickets, that's what they ask you straight
Oh,
up.
absolutely. And
Are you
he's-
in the entertainment industry?
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
they don't want somebody using the entertainment industry. They want like an unbiased.
So I
opinion.
just wanted
The
to see the
adult
movie. I
entertainment industry.
didn't know what it was. Actually, I thought maybe it was a Pirates. I didn't know really what I was there for. So I'm like, well, screw it.
on.
Exactly.
Tell me more about this
speaking
story.
my language. Just Jason Carter looks at me. So I get in line. I say I work with him at the Gap.
He worked at the Gap?
Yeah.
I think he did at the time. Yeah, he was working at the Gap.
Gap Outlet.
Was that
Gap
the project?
Kids?
No,
He was
Gap
currently
Retail.
assigned to a
He
few months?
loves his retail jobs.
Good for him.
No real responsibility.
What
Just
kind
shows-
of
he works at the
discount?
Apple Store.
What kind of discount do you get at Gap?
I don't know. He works at the Apple
He
Store.
doesn't work there anymore. So
Backwards.
why do you?
So
So
care?
you saw
Tag.
Shock
I
a
just
lot
like all
with your
kinds of-
mandate friend.
who
every minute
who
of it.
indirectly is really gay, which made it all
Oh.
perfect.
Okay.
Okay, that was the good part of the story. Let me get back to the regular story.
Just love all the details.
We get into the screening room. It's a really small screening room. It's actually smaller than the one you guys have here even. We sit down, and as the guy comes out, the test group guy I've never seen before gets out and he says, you're going to see a movie that isn't in production. You'll see the name as it comes up with the credits. We need you to watch this honestly and openly. And sure enough, it's fucking National Treasure 2. So I'm even more uncomfortable. I'm like, I'm looking at him. I'm like, holy shit, you're going to see all my previews I just put in yesterday. As we're sitting there, we were trying to sit, it's a really small screen, dude. So, like, we were trying to sit as far back as we could, but the back row had been taped off. And the back row consisted of only, like, 7 seats. I mean, it's like if you had ever went to the Beverly Center to see a movie in one of their amazing 25-seat theaters. It was like that. So we get in the back, and we're sitting there, and as we're sitting, probably 25 minutes in, fucking dude, Bruckheimer and the editor I had just met the day before sit right behind me. And I had to listen to them whisper. One, it was just pissing me off because people were talking behind me during the movie. And two, I'm nervous I'm going to lose my job because I just not supposed to be in this screening room yet watching my movie. And then when they leave, they stuck around because when they left, it was the true test. Now, I had never experienced this. I don't know if any of you guys have.
The focus testing.
Yes, they bring in somebody who specifically asks focus questions.
Yeah.
And since I had done the entire third act, it was the first time in my job at Previs where they actually handed me a script. And they kept changing it. So I had no storyboards. It was, here's a script. Can you and the lead animator with me, can you guys previs this? And you look at a script, and for every paragraph or line, it's potentially a shot. That's how you have to look at it. And we're looking at it, and we're counting. At one point, I did the count because he's like, dude, you spend a weekend just do this. It was like 350 shots just for the third sequence.
5 minutes a page.
That you had to do in CG. We had to do cameras. We had to, and the thing I was with the editor is I had left out all the cut-in shots that I knew would probably be there. You know when you see a film and they cut the dialogue and I'm going to cut to Josh. And I frame Josh and Josh is saying, I love you. And they cut back to Kearney and he's like, of course you do. And then they cut over to Adam and like, you son of a bitch. And they cut to Jason and he's crying.
Let's roleplay this right now.
I didn't have any of those.
I'm into this story. The
Exactly.
second story.
So
I
why
was
is
cutting.
Jason crying?
I was cutting corners though, and I'm like, I'm just gonna do the actions. Like I'm going through reading paragraphs.
Yeah.
Sure enough, he's like, dude, you're missing like 150. I need slugs for these moments. These are dialogue moments I need slugs for. So this guy's in the back. So I'm literally crouching. In my seat, I had a hat. I'm putting my hat down. I'm like, as long as I don't make eye contact, this guy will never.
We'll never know.
But I walk out, and for some reason, it was like a second when I walk out, and they're like, "There's pizza and popcorn. Help yourself, drinks." I was like, "Woo!" And I fucking killed it, dude. Literally, I was like, I think I was standing next to him and realized this dude's has worked on every Bruckheimer. I think he did the Pirates too. I was like, he doesn't know who the hell I am.
That's why Jason
and I'm
is
just
crying.
eating next to him. I'm like, at one point, I think I said hi to him, and he didn't even still recognize me. I'm like, you don't
what
care
an
about a
asshole.
peon.
That guy's
And I
kind
had
of a jerk.
spent, dude, literally, I had spent like half a day in his editing suite. Yeah, trying to get this cut to work. But it was an interesting thing of having people in the room. But like, they sat behind us and fucking whispered. And I was looking at my buddy who's not in the industry, and I'm like, did that annoy you? He's like, it's people just get starstruck, I guess. But us who do this, I was pissed. He was like, no, man, it was fucking Bruckheimer talking about the film, how cool it was.
You weren't tempted to go like, shh.
No. I was more tempted
That would've
in
been
the
awesome.
focus questions, and they said, is there anything you would change? Now, as I had worked on it, the entire time
I
I'm
totally
doing
put
previs,
cutaways in there. Who's
no,
that guy?
it needed to be changed, period. Like, it was obvious the script wasn't very good on the end. It took all my energy not to want to call out, like, huge glaring problems. And I'm like, let's give the crowd a benefit of the doubt. Because a lot of people who go to these are aficionados. Like, they are there just to rip the movie apart at the end and be like, well, your fucking main character has a flaw because his mom, obviously you skipped over a whole timeline and this, that, and the other. So I'm like, somebody will get to it. And finally somebody mentioned it, and they just breezed over. Because basically the way they worded, like, there's still changes. There could still be changes made. And, of course, I know tonight I'm like, of course, you guys are going to fucking make changes. I got to come back tomorrow and do more previs.
I think it's perfect the way it is. Ship it out.
That movie's amazing.
Put a bow on it. It's
Your
done.
third
Well,
third
you
act
know,
nailed it.
There's a trick if you ever don't want to be called up to that front, because a lot of times what they'll do, if they'll do it at a big theater, is they'll call a smaller group up and talk to them.
How did they pick the small group out?
Small group, I don't know what they do to pick them, but I do know who they throw out. And they throw out extremes. And so if you go through and just bash a movie and just give it, like usually they'll give you a little questionnaire.
It's like jury duty.
That everyone fills out. Yeah, and if you just go 0, 0, 0 all the way,
Your opinion doesn't count.
your opinion doesn't count because they're like, well, he hated the movie. We're not going to get anything good. I think it works the other way, too. I'm kind of sure that if you're all 5s or 10s or whatever it is, they'll go the same thing. They'll be like, oh, you're an extreme. We don't care. But I know for a fact
Well, they
it's
got their
zeros.
answer. If you said the movie's amazing, whatever else, okay, fine. They don't need
Yeah.
to hear from you. They think it's amazing. You want to hear from the guy who's like, well, there's some
Yeah, you want to
flaws
talk to the
and-
guy who's like, yeah, who's a realistic opinion, whereas a guy who hates it, you're never going to win over.
So-
That's how you leave early.
I got my hands on a
Hate everything.
I got my hands on an Ouya.
No shit, really?
Did you?
Yep.
Yeah, are you a dev?
That was my Peggy Hill impression.
Nope. I was at a dev who had it.
What?
And let me tell you this:
It's an Ouija board,
that
but a
thing
digital one.
is tiny.
Yeah.
About the box.
It's like the size of a
no,
Rubik's Cube.
No, it's a Rubik's Cube.
It's really that small?
It is
Yeah.
tiny.
Oh, yeah, Adam, didn't they model it after your penis? Yeah.
Really small and square-like.
Now,
That's cool.
But it twists
We need the
in
symbol.
all directions.
so here's
He's
what I'll
got,
say.
he's got the board cock.
No, it's a square. It's like a Rubik's
It's a
cube.
cube. It's a Borg cube cock.
Borg.
Borg,
Yeah.
not
yeah, there's
board.
Yeah.
Well, it's
there's-
also been
there's
called the board. I don't know. I've got a lot of nicknames.
The
for
Board
my
of
wiener.
Education.
So the Ouya console piece, the actual, I think it's called a console, right? Computer
is.
plugs into your TV.
Technically.
Is really slick. It's really cool.
just
It's
real
got,
quick, Jay.
I'm not finished.
Oh, I'm just saying, for those of our
You're gonna
audience
interject with a
that
joke
don't know
right here,
what
are
it
you?
is.
No,
I'm saying
he
for
does-
the
he has no
audience
idea what
that
the
don't
Ouya
know
is.
what it
He
is.
doesn't know what that is.
For our audience, I'm not saying
You
me,
had
I'm
that
saying for
look
our
about you.
audience. I always have that look. But for those of us that are listening, our very faithful followers that may not know what an Ouija board is.
Well, there's that joke you saw.
I claim total responsibility for
There's
that.
the
You
joke.
put that in my brain. No, but seriously,
He
some
did
of
when
us-
you first brought it up. He
some of
looked
us
at
don't know
me.
it.
He looked at me with the look he gives me a lot of the show and goes, I have no fucking idea what he's talking about.
All right, so an Ouya is a console that's made on the Android platform. So it's a very small piece of hardware that plugs into your TV and will run games. So it's designed to be a living room console. Has its own controller that looks Xbox-esque. We'll get to that in a second.
And it was one of the big Kickstarter.
Yes.
Kickstarter.
I mean, it was a
Yeah.
huge
Huge
campaign,
Kickstarter.
and it did amazing.
we
And
covered
they've
it
got a
on
big deal with Best Buy, right? And
Yes.
they're coming out in like a month or two at $100.
I think they're coming out in May, and they're $100,
Yeah.
and it's I think the equivalent.
See, I wanna
the,
hear about it.
the games are supposed to be like
Phone
Xbox
Plus.
Live Arcade kind of games.
Yeah.
Like I don't think they're supposed to be like real hardcore games. Although they've been talking to a lot of developers about stretching the platform, but it's a smaller piece of hardware. So the box itself is really slick and cool looking. It's got these ports. It's super tiny. You can see through it. It's got like a white semi-translucent plastic on it, so you can kind of see the
That's just the
LEDs
dev
and
ones,
stuff.
though.
Yeah, correct. But the controller sucks.
Yeah.
It
Why
is-
is that?
It is.
I could see
it
that.
just felt fat and clunky. Like you've got this sleek little box, and then imagine an Xbox controller.
The original Xbox?
No, the Xbox 360, where the handles have stretched out another like 2 inches, so they're just longer, so you feel like you're holding like half a steering
Like a
wheel.
boomerang?
Yeah, kind of. And then on top of that, it's like fatter. It just felt cheap. I don't know how to describe it. Like there's something.
They
that
modeled the
just felt cheap.
controller after Josh's dick.
Yeah.
Big,
Yeah,
fat,
just a
long, and cheap.
The bangarang.
I'll take it. I'll take
Oh. I'm going to say it again because I know you all missed it. The bangarang.
it. Yes. I know, I heard you.
The way I describe this podcast is stories fighting their way through the jokes.
That sounds about
Hey,
accurate.
didn't they have a video on the Kickstarter talking about designing the controller while they were designing the rest of the Ouya? And
Yeah.
they were like, "Yeah, we got engineers and we're designing it." And they showed them like cutting out wood
And it's like
stuff.
one of the-
and they ended up-
Cutting out wood.
One of the-
and they ended up coming up with this.
Like one of the
thing.
product designers, I think, from the original iPod is involved in the project. And
Wow.
That's a good one. Get the guys that made
He
the
was-
really big clunky one.
He was the one that was let go.
Yeah.
Towards the beginning.
What, you're going to put a big fucking wheel in the middle? Okay. See ya.
Okay, why don't you? I know you're
No,
kind of
no, no,
homeless,
boss,
but
I got an idea. It's all just one screen and you can touch it. No. Fuck you. We're going with the wheel. The big fucking wheel.
I had that.
Don't
I had that
reinvent
one.
the wheel unless you're Apple.
Your penis jokes are much better.
I know, and bigger.
So
That's all. That's the end of the story.
No, I'm just curious.
You're all
So-
looking at me
so-
like there's more.
So
End of the story.
somebody you know is deving, and they got a dev kit.
Yeah, there's a company in Pasadena that I occasionally do some contract work for on the side. That's it's not illegal.
Is it our buddy?
It's
Our buddy's company?
Yep.
Nice,
Mr.
dude.
Grant Vicklin.
Yeah.
Oh, great.
did you get to play anything or just see it?
Yeah, did he have it up on screen? Like you could
It wasn't.
play?
It wasn't plugged in, so I just got to see
Did
the
you just
hardware.
juggle it around a little bit?
Yep.
See how it felt in your
So what
hands?
kind of ports? What kind of ports were on the back?
Penis joke.
Yeah.
You
Like
know,
HDMI? Did you look at it?
I
Damn it,
I know.
Carter.
I
This is
know,
why he
I'm
stopped
reporting-
short. He's like, I really have nothing
No,
else.
I was so.
literally
I
have
saw it
nothing
from a
else.
distance about 3 miles away with the binoculars. It looked shiny.
and it looks small from that distance.
Exactly.
I'm pretty
You
sure it
should've-
was a computer, but I can't be.
You should have listened to me when I said the story was over. Now, just clearly, the story is getting really going downhill.
I know it has an HDMI and it has USBs.
Yeah,
I do know that.
Two
from just
two
reading about
USBs,
it, right?
an Ethernet, and a HDMI, from what I remember. But honest to God, when you see this thing, it is so tiny. I was just mesmerized, but I just kept turning around in my hand, going like, "This plays games. It's amazing."
But
This plays games.
along that note, though, one of us posted, I think, an article last week about what is it called? The Pi?
Raspberry Pi.
The Raspberry Pi, which
Yeah.
is which is probably that size
Yeah.
motherboard with onboard memory that's just enough to be able to. And in this case, what excited a lot of us was you could actually install Plex on this.
Raspberry Pi basically is like
I would think it's the same thing, right?
It's
it
basically
runs
the
the
same thing as
OS.
they're both kind of like
Android platform,
phones,
yeah.
basically, that can plug in. And so the Raspberry Pi, the only thing about that is that's just like the guts, you know.
Right, you're just getting the motherboard, but
Yeah.
that's the thing. Like another article I was going to bring up on his Ouya was that there was another article that was posted where you could easily 3D print your own case,
Yeah.
very very fast.
And I
So,
think you're going to
out of
find
Raspberry
why not
Pi.
throw
Pi.
why not throw the Pi into the
Sounds-
Ouya case, and now
sounds-
you have like an Ouya surprise.
Sounds delicious.
But I'm surprised that the Ouya has been getting as much press as it has, because when they first announced it on Kickstarter, I was like, oh, that sounds cool, but it sounded like a billion other things that just were like, whatever, like, who gives a shit? And the more I read about it, people are really taking it seriously as a platform. When it's not from a major publisher or
Right,
developer, it's not,
It's
it's just this.
Well, it also sounded like it wasn't really going to happen.
That's true, too. I
Well,
guess.
it's free
Yeah,
game.
That's very
I mean, its
true.
whole premise was you spend a lot on semi a lot on this console, but the idea was free gaming. That's what I remember being the big thing. And they're like, well, I read a lot of articles that stemmed around this isn't a viable kind of
Who's gonna make
console.
Who's gonna sell games on it? I mean, who's gonna make games if it's all?
Well, it's
going
going to be all like indie
Indie
people
games.
who
I think
indie
you
games.
still can charge for it, though. I think they still might do it kind of like the phone model.
Why will I want that then?
Because it's basically like if you are the kind of player that I like these kind of like little phone games, right?
Sure.
And I want to play something on my TV. You're like, I like that style of play. I don't necessarily am obsessed with the touchscreen. I want to use a controller, but I want to play a quick indie game. Like, that's the place to go. Is like, oh, I get one of those for $100. It's basically what I'm hearing the next Xbox might be.
Okay, so it's got
the one version of it.
HDMI, Ethernet, USB. It looks like it's
power jack.
a power jack, and then it looks like a micro USB.
Yeah.
I think that's what that
Probably
is.
for controllers or something.
Not sure. The controllers are wireless, so
That is one of the ugliest controllers I've seen, though, Jay. You're absolutely right. It's looked like they knew what they needed via, like, we know what Xbox and PS4, you have to give your players those controls.
yeah.
It
but
seemed like it just needed
The
to
other
look
thing-
different from them.
absolutely, or you're going to get sued. That's exactly what it
What's
looks
the
like.
percentage of change it has to be in order to not?
So
They
the
should just
other
go
thing I
back to
forgot
the original NES controller.
The other thing I forgot to mention was
Make that work.
imagine you took the PlayStation controller and you took the buttons, like the circle, X, whatever it is, and you took those exact buttons off of the PlayStation controller, put them in the same location on the Ouya controller, but it says Ouya, Ouya. It spells it out in a circle. It's like kind of cheesy.
That's clever.
I don't know.
What? That's not clever.
Alex Carter goes, that's cheesy, and Adam Inslee goes, that's clever.
I used to wait, though. The thing with me is I would wait for Xbox Live when they would have those, like, Bejeweled. I like Bejeweled on my phone.
Yeah.
Xbox Live got it.
Zuma.
Sweet. I'm paying for Xbox Live. It's there. I don't know. I don't see a reason to get that yet.
I think it's gonna have, and I think they've done a good job. They've done a couple they teamed up with this website Killscreen and did a game jam for it, where the winner got X amount of dollars to put their game out on Ouya, and because it's just like Android, it's not like, oh shit, I need to make my game for Android and iOS and Ouya, and it's like, nah, Ouya just comes for free. And so I think you're going to find like lots of interesting, because the box isn't that expensive. It's only $100, and you're going to find lots of those like diamond in the rough kind of small bite-sized games, but now you can play them in 1080p.
And this is just for gaming, right? You're not doing anything else
I think
on
they're
this
going to
box?
be able to put, I'd heard something a long time ago of like Netflix and Hulu and shit like that, and I would think Plex would come with that.
Well, and that's what I'm trying to decide. So right now, the Roku 3, which I'm potentially going to buy, is strictly, has the apps. They do actually have some gaming, which is kind of neat with their control that comes with it now. It actually has a motion controller in it to do stuff. I'm trying to find the differences right now. They're both $100. They're both the same thing. And Roku has gone through its years of testing, and it doesn't come with that fucking behemoth-looking controller with the same style of games. Like you get, I think Angry Birds is one that's already on Roku, and there's a bunch of other like kind of games. I guess now that the Roku 3
first, Roku's everything else first.
Sure.
Roku is, hey, you're gonna get this device that does all this cool movie shit, and then by the way, hey, we get a couple games. Whereas this is gonna be, you get this device you can play a bunch of cool games on, and we have your basic suite that everybody else has.
Okay, a couple other things. So I think I lied. I don't think he.
I lied.
I don't think he was involved in the iPod. I think he was actually involved in the first Xbox. I'm trying to confirm that, but he is the chief creative officer for Jawbone, the company Jawbone.
That's what I remember.
And he also is the chief industrial designer for the One Laptop Per Child project.
Where's my children's laptops?
Also, in case anyone's interested, this guy
Must
also
have 10 laptops. They probably have one, right?
This
Yeah,
guy-
they share it though. It's not right.
this guy also redesigned the New York City Condom logo.
Oh.
Good for
New York
him.
City has their own condoms.
I guess so.
That's cool.
Segueing into something like that, did you hear that Bill Gates is trying to make a condom?
What's
Condom game jam he's doing. Best condom design.
Yeah.
Wait.
He's basically trying to reinvent the condom because it's a very old original idea, shape, and stuff like that. He's trying to make it better.
Let's put our heads together and
Not
see what we
trying
can
to
come up
reinvent
with,
the
guys.
wheel, by the way.
Sean, did you hear my joke about heads together?
Oh,
So I'm changing subjects just because fucking
Come on.
is it
you stepped on my joke. We're stepping on each other's
because
joke.
Kearney posted something on our Evernote page. So I'm going through the stuff. I'm looking at what's up here, and I'm like, oh, these are all really good. Okay, Kearney
so
throws
good.
me off, and I realized what's funny is how I read the topic to start with, and the topic was 9-year-old building an RPG to prove her brother's wrong. Now, when I first read that, now here's the difference.
Rocket.
Kearney, yes, no, thank you.
Rocket propelled grenade.
When Kearney reads it, it's very apparent. Kearney's into games.
You're wrong. I can blow stuff.
I play Black Ops all day long. I read this. I'm like, holy shit, he's building a really RPG in his bedroom. This is awesome. Until I open it up and I'm like, no, he's just building a real rolling game. I'm like, this isn't as fun as I thought it could have
Still,
been.
though, is fucking
Still
badass.
could
So
explode in his face.
Kearney, tell us the story, buddy.
So this girl, Mackenzie, is 9 years old and is way into games. And her fucking brothers, she has like 2 brothers who were like, you're a girl, you can't make games. You're not good at games. So she was like, fuck you. I'm going to go to this camp and learn how to make fucking video games. And her mom was all down for it and was like, let's do a Kickstarter, right? She needed $843
to go to the camp?
to go to the camp. And if you read her thing, it's dictated to her mother, but it's fucking awesome. And it's this girl that at 9 years old is like, I really like video games, so I want to make one. And it just like comes across as just like so fucking like innocent and good natured, And it's like, so I'll just read one little piece about it. So she says, most people call me Kenzie. I'm 9 in 3rd grade and I'm getting straight A's. I've always been the tallest person in my class, and this year I'm actually taller than my teacher. I love computers, video games, apps, and role-playing games, especially Magic the Gathering and Borderlands 2 that I get to play with my dad because my 15 and 16-year-old brothers are too mean to play with me. But we do have D&D tournaments on the weekends, which is cool. My favorite PS3 game right now is Dragon Age 2. So this girl is legit, right? This girl's fucking awesome. And so she wants $829 to cover the cost of attending an RPG camp, role-playing game, for kids 9 to 12 for a week. and it's an overnight camp, and she's like, I just want $829. I kind of want a laptop, but my mom says I shouldn't ask for too much, and this doesn't cover the cost of like staying at the camp. So I shot her $30 because she's badass. And
that's
apparently a shitload of people did. She's raised, I think it's something around $25,000.
Jesus.
Right? So now she's going to make a fucking baller RPG with this. Because, like, you just read this and you know that she's not going to piss it away. You know that she's like, oh my God, I got $20,000. Let's get a better computer. Let's hire an artist.
I was
and
just
let's
going to say, you
make
could
the world's
hire
most
an artist. You're
killer-
like, hey, can you make some
Yeah.
models? I'll give you $2,000. Hey, can you do this? I'll give you another $1,000.
Yeah. It's fucking awesome. And so she's going to do this thing, and for $30 I'm getting a getting a copy of the game when it's completed, blah blah blah.
I
and then
drink
I'm
like
getting,
a girl. Are you getting
Yeah.
the koozie?
And I'm getting the koozie and a t-shirt that says I blank like a girl. Throw, run, play, code, win.
Nice.
So fucking rock and roll.
My daughter's right there with Kenzie.
Yeah. So amen, Kenzie. You're fucking punk rock.
I'm just gonna open a new Kickstarter once a week. It's a numbers game. One of them's gotta hit big.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm just going home with it.
I've always wanted to kickstart a morning.
That was so bad. Oh my God.
Why
I'm
don't
done.
you look into the camera when you do that stuff?
Because he's hoping someone in
You
the
know,
camera is gonna
that-
this
enjoy
whole
it.
that needs to
show
go into the
is
camera.
just stories
Check
trying to
out.
make their way through Carter's jokes.
Josh checked out on that one. All right, let's do a little something different. Let's go to a question on the old forum
There you
because
go.
I got to get past this odd moment in our show as I look at the camera. So, Sean, this came from you don't even have this up. Do you want me to read it out?
Yes, please do.
So this came from Dan.
Oh yeah, Dan. What's
Came
up,
from
Dan?
Dan, which came from Sean, which
It came from the forum, which props
on
to
the
Dan
forum.
for going to the forum.
Even though he hates it, for good reasons, probably.
But Mr. Dan Camp posted a question, and his question, Kearney, don't you leave, is playing the new Tomb Raider and loving every minute of it. As I near the end and reflect, the game is pretty much just taking the best ideas from many other games, mostly Uncharted, God of War, and Batman Arkham City. My question is, as video game players, do you guys prefer a game experience that is entirely new and creative, or would you prefer a game that takes the best ideas and mechanics from other games and improves on them?
Yes.
Sean Fennell.
That was not a yes or no question.
Yeah.
That's my answer.
No, let's
is
go around.
yes.
Let's go around the room. Yes, you want them to use the same old ideas, or yes, you want a new idea.
I read his question and I'm like, geez, I don't know what my answer is, because I feel like every time someone has introduced a new mechanic to a game, it's kind of fallen on its face more often than it's taken off, until the second time someone else does it is a little bit better. So I think I'm kind of in the camp of like, take stuff that works and make it better. For the most part, there are a couple of cases where like brand new shit has been awesome, but most often it doesn't work. It doesn't hold up as well as the tried and true.
I mean, he's specifically talking about third-person games in here too.
yeah.
I think it's in general. I think it's in
yeah,
general. No,
it's
I
a
think it's in
ge-
general.
it's a
I wanted.
general question.
It's a general question. I wanted to reel us in a bit, just talking about his experience in third-person games, because I know what he's talking about specifically.
Yeah, I know. For me, I was kind of like in between. Like, I think there's room for both. Like, I like both types of games. Like, I'm very excited to get Grand Theft Auto 5 and play that game that just does everything, right? And that is going to be, hopefully, if it's a step above, for like a really immersive, cool experience that I've played 4 or 5 times before. You know what I mean?
And there's a piece of you that hopes that it's still
that
sort of
it's
that
still
gameplay.
Exactly. Like, that's
Yeah.
what I'm looking for. I'd say with me now, like as a gamer, I don't have the time that I used to have. So I kind of like those really crazy original things and it's what I really like about mobile games specifically, is there's games that in 10 minutes I can play and like see something that's really cool and interesting that would in 20 hours get boring, but in 20 minutes or even 2 or 3 hours is just super compelling and interesting. And I'm happy that those games exist. And to be honest, like, I'm happy that they're over quickly. Like, I was playing some next gen game, or I was playing, and this is even better. I was playing Luigi's Mansion, which is a 3DS, so it's a handheld Nintendo game. And I was a half an hour into it and was still in the tutorial. And all I could think is that I had before that been playing Ridiculous Fishing, which I totally recommend on iOS. And in Ridiculous Fishing, I was almost done with the game by the time in Luigi's Mansion I was ready to start, which reminded me of the difference between the movie King Kong and then Peter Jackson's King Kong, where the movie King Kong is over by the time they get to the island in Peter Jackson's King Kong. And it's like the same sort of thing for me. Both cool movies. I like both those movies. But the gamer I am now wants to understand your game and understand what I like about it in 5 minutes rather than in 5 hours.
But a lot of that's not introducing new things. It's saying, well, and I could argue that
it's both.
Because if you don't change it, I walk right in and I can play
and
this
you can
game
know.
right away.
And so that's true. So I think, I guess mine is more complex of I think I like more new crazy mechanics, but in a fast-paced game.
You forgot a key part to your story, which is you were playing Ridiculous Fishing, which you totally recommend, but the full title there is Ridiculous Fishing: A Tale of Redemption.
No way! I didn't even know that.
Is that the sequel?
That's amazing.
Is it free?
But seriously, it's $3, but it is. But let's fucking grow up. It's $3 You're gonna spend that on tacos tonight.
Slow your roll.
Don't you remember the
fucking
opening
asshole.
of this
With
podcast?
tacos, we're going to get back to a full story about tacos. Both of us can chime in on
I
it.
had the Doritos. Ranch.
Don't take that
Don't
from
take
me.
the story
Oh,
from
don't
us.
take it from
Good,
me.
I'm in. I want to talk about it.
Adam, what do you think? Do you need something fresh, or are you cool with just it working well?
My gameplay style has been in the last year. I've bought the Call of Duties, and that's just what I'll pick up and play. And I like to be able to just pick up and play and just be able to play at some level. I think that for the game industry, it needs to be new stuff. I think that the game industry as a whole needs to have these games. Then I want them to get made and get established and
to
get
make
figured
money?
out. Yeah, I want them these guys that are doing kind of crazy different ideas and are pushing the envelope and in gameplay and stuff like that. I want those to work, and I want people to buy them so that in 2 or 3 years, when the other versions come out, I can start playing them and they work, and then that becomes my normal. But I just don't play very much to want to spend 2 hours learning a new game and
Jason Carter.
that kind of shit.
Yeah, 100% both. I mean, you have to. I think some of the most fun experiences I've had have definitely been. Suddenly, it's like, we can hear
so
ourselves.
much
That's
better.
nice. So sorry. I think some of the best experiences I've had have been playing games that are sequels, because I think what a sequel does is if the first one does well, they take what worked really well. I mean, no company's going to make it worse, right, or attempt to. So they take what worked really well and they improve upon it, right? And they continue to try and finesse the ingredients to make this thing great. So I think some of the best gaming experiences for sure I've had have been with established franchises, established mechanics, things that they're not innovative, but they're certainly evolutionary, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
And then at the same time, I think for me, the game of the decade. I mean, probably the game that's been the most influential of the last 10 years for me, at least, has been Portal, the Portal games, and that
100% agree.
That is totally innovative. That is taking something that existed and flipping it completely on its head. And I even think Treyarch did the same thing with zombies, right? They said, what would happen if we did tower defense meets first-person shooter, and freaking sunk how much time into that? So I think, for me, it's 100% both. You have to have both. And right now, I think Halo 4 is still in my Xbox, but I have a queue of what I would consider more interesting, non-mainstream games of Xbox Live Arcade stuff that I'm waiting to play. So it has to be both. It has to be both for sure for me.
I think there's a lot of things to ask yourself on the thing. It's one is the time question. I mean, you guys, everybody sort of brought up in this room, specifically when you're older, and you don't have the time to play everything. There's a piece of, at least for me, that doesn't necessarily have the time to learn an entirely new mechanic. I found that to be a game that I loved playing, but it was a game I had to sit and pick up a little bit, even though the mechanics, similar to most things, was going to, luckily it was similar enough, but something like a DJ Hero, where I actually had to do the tutorial. I hadn't played a game in a long time where I actually had to do the tutorial. So there's the speed thing. I think the innovative things, I think games like Minecraft and the whatnot that have come down, like you said, with Portal, are good, and I think they need to be there. But like Adam was saying, they need to be making those. The thing is, from a financial standpoint, they don't. a matter of fact, the most successful money-making games, and Kearney probably can chime in a lot better than I can, have actually just been sequels to
Absolutely.
games
Yeah, 100% agree.
that have proven track records that people can pick up, and play. Now, I do like, and I'm a huge fan of, and it's why Black Ops 2 got my vote, is Jason, you brought up the evolutionary strides of games, and I think Treyarch does the best job. I would love to think Infinity Ward does, but I personally don't think they do. But Treyarch does on the standpoint of trying to take the world that exists and then keep trying to reinvent it and push it a little further. I think Infinity Ward did a little bit by trying to say, hey, we're going to bring this whole Call of Duty Elite experience. So where even if you're not playing it, if you're on a phone or on a laptop, you still want to be immersed in this world, you can do things that will affect your in-game play. I thought that was cool. And and it turned into a free thing now. But I think Treyarch has pushed it a little bit further with an existing game and kept going. I think Halo does it on many levels too, even with the new one, with their tie-ins with everything. I think is fucking badass that they do that. So, but I don't think they need to reinvent the wheel for me. And I'm fine if it's still a really good play. Now, I don't play these third-person games. They look fun, and there's aspects of them that look all the same to me, to be honest. I think of gameplay, but I think if, like how I am with my first-person shooters, I think people who play third-person are the exact same way. I don't think you really want to be fucked with.
No,
I think you want that
I think
stuff.
with third person, like if you look at, especially with third person platformers, I think Portal was a great example of one where you didn't need the sequel. I thought the sequel was great, but that it wasn't, like, I agree with Jason that a lot of times with an Assassin's Creed, for example, like there's, oh, that was kind of good. I can't wait to see what they do in number 2, which is completely different from films, or in number 4 with Pirates. But like with films, you see a great movie, and there's part of you that goes like, ugh, if they do a sequel, it's going to suck. Whereas with great games, a lot of times you're like, ooh, I can't wait for the sequel because they're going to get to improve. But I think when you look at third-person games, I think third-person games are one of the few that they've
done everything.
And they've made one of the best games right out the gate, Super Mario 64. You can go back and play it now, and it still holds up. That game is just so fucking good. And to consider that there were like, I don't know, like maybe 10 or 15 little 3D platforming games had been made before that like in a serious AAA sort of way. Like that was one that they nailed out of the gate. And the fact that like these games now, like Uncharted and stuff like that, which kind of change it up a little bit and have some shooting and stuff like that, but basically are third-person platformers at their core. The fact that they haven't gone too astray from that Mario 64, and the fact that Mario hasn't really been able to do anything remarkably different, shows how that was like mined and exploited so early because they just nailed it. Whereas I think first-person shooters, it was like on the PC, then Halo brought it to the console, then there was online. There were all these different things that they were able to play with and tweak, which is why Doom is so different from Black Ops 2. Whereas you look at Mario 64, and not to say that there weren't 2D platformers and all that, but you look at Mario 64 and then you look at Ratchet and Clank or whatever the equivalent would be now, and you're like, they're both great games. Like, they haven't really changed too much. So I do think that it depends on the genre. I don't know where you could go. Like, Portal is so specific, but I don't know how you could exploit Portal more, you know?
Sure, I'll let Josh chime in, and I'll chime back on the. I think it's a little story driven too. A third person. I think you're selling like I always looked at the third person games as graphic novels. You're giving somebody like a graphic novel. Like if you were going to do an equivalent like Wolverine, every Wolverine book could be could be one video game. Could be like one graphic novel of Wolverine could be the equivalent of one console game that you put out, and that's the third person game. You play that experience of that story. That's what you're playing, and then keep building on that. But that's all you're playing a story that you can't really alter. Does that make sense? That's one of the reasons I don't play, because I don't feel it's very alterable. You're playing a path. You either can learn the little trick to get past to the next point, or you just got really good at killing a lot of people. But you're not really steering it at all, I guess. I don't know. That's just my sort of take on it. Josh, what do you think? New, innovative, or you're fine with what works?
Well, it is kind of catch-22 because there's so many times in other media forms that I hate when they stray from what is good, especially like music-wise. When you sit there and you listen to an album and you're just like, this was awesome. I loved like every song. Like one was hard, one was soft, one was melodic, one was more beat, and you're just like, this album made it for me. And then it's just like, we're coming out with a new one. We're totally, we're experimenting. It's like, oh, this fucking sucks.
Weezer Blue Album. That was it. That's the best example. Weezer Blue Album was one of the best albums I've ever heard. And Pinkerton sucked. Everything since has sucked. Terribly.
You're picking sides in a war with that one. I think that those are. I love both of them.
No.
And then I think after that it goes to shit.
No, Pinkerton is crap.
Pinkerton, you need to listen to a couple more times because it doesn't hit you as instantly.
The single they did for the Angus movie was better
great.
than Pinkerton.
But that was a great song.
Angus movie.
You gave your love to me softly.
Wow.
I still remember that 20 years later.
People don't agree with Jason. Oh, that never happened. Brendan Fraser.
Pinkerton is like the monkey bone of Weezer. I just reached.
There it is.
So, yes. So there are different areas where, I think keep giving me what I like, those types of things. But when it comes to games, like mixing all the things that are good and then coming up with something like that, I am all for it. To me, that's like, I made a pizza with some cheese and some pepperoni and, some sauce. You're like, cool. Well, guess what? Now there's this cheese from this other pizza, so I'm going to add it to this one. And then there's, you're taking like all these ingredients from something that's actually good and you're combining it and making like this awesome meal or this awesome dish. And that's what I think gaming is. So I'm well on the side of, collectively grabbing from other games. Because obviously, we do it in writing and speeches and stuff like that. We quote people who have said it better than we are. So you make a game, someone else makes something better than you do in a certain area. Take what that is. It's good. Why not? And then combine it with something else and make it better.
Make sure you patent
The funny part about this argument, this discussion,
Up front.
is you cannot possibly have the seasoned make it better without the original. Like someone has to pave the new ground and then to have the process of improving upon it. You know what I mean? Like it's funny. It's like the stuff that, like I said, some of the best game experiences I've had have been with polished sequels that continue to get better and better and better, more refined. But it had to be that first one, that innovative one, that started the process, started the chain reaction,
Well,
You just chicken and egg us. You just chicken
did.
and egg
I
us.
did.
But I mean, look at Halo.
Oh, shit.
Halo, in terms of its core and what you do, the way the guns work, maybe AI gets tweaked and stuff like that. It is the same thing every time. Exactly. Don't get me wrong. I love it. But what has kept me going with the Halo franchise is the fact of the story. Not the gameplay innovation. He jumps the same height that he always jumps. He shoots the same way he always shoots. Oh, look, there's a freaking Grug. Oh, look, there's a Brute. Same one that I've seen the last 7 games. Ta-da. But I'm still going to enjoy it, and I'm still going to shoot it. So, yes, that one did innovate.
Jump it.
But it's just like, yeah, that to me is like, it didn't revolutionize everything. It was something that was just a solid thing.
You would not say Halo 1 revolutionized the first-person shooter?
No.
For consoles, yes. I would on a console standpoint, yes. I think
I can agree with. That I think is like the biggest success, personally. Yes, of a. Well,
for me, I think the
What
biggest
about
thing.
GoldenEye?
That's exactly what I was just about to say.
Oh, that's a good point. I
GoldenEye
hadn't really
was a
thought about.
ridiculously awesome shooter,
that
and
was
it
the-
came way before.
That's my
Yeah,
top
but
3 all time.
the argument isn't necessarily, what was the first one to start it, but it wasn't.
Not
was
the
it,
first one to
Was it
start it.
revolutionary for the medium? But I mean, I think the thing that gets overlooked a lot for Halo is the very first Halo on the Xbox was the first-person shooter game to have auto assist. So, like, as you're hunting around the screen, there's this imperceptible little, like, finite thing that you don't maybe notice where, like, if you're kind of near the person, it kind of semi-snaps on.
Which is my biggest
Hated it.
gripe. No, that I hate it. It is my biggest gripe about playing on the console. Even today, and I literally was I was thinking about this last night. This is the kind of dumb shit I think about when I go to bed. Of doing a YouTube commentary to show off even the mechanics in Black, because Call of Duty uses the same thing. They use an auto assist, auto aim. Now, coming from a lifetime of playing PC first-person shooters competitively, which it is all about accurate aim. There's no assist. If you're on target, you hit them. Watching people I play against, and one of the features in Call of Duty in general is when you die, and I think Halo you can do the same thing. You get a kill cam. Do you get a kill cam where you can see how they
Not
kill
in
you?
Halo, but yeah.
Okay. So in Call of Duty you do. And I, depending on how I die, I sometimes will go ahead and wait the extra 3 seconds. I want to see how the jackass killed me. It blows me away what you're able to get away with on a console because of that feature. And people who've been playing on consoles long enough in first-person shooters take advantage of it. And one of the things they do right off the bat is if your peripheral picks up any movement, what you'll see console players do over a PC gamer is you pull trigger, you're holding trigger, so you're starting to fire at the ground, and as you come up, auto assist takes over. Now, I've seen people do this with walls, and they'll actually go around the board with their aim floating till auto assist kicks in, and then fire, and then as it scrolls over, it'll automatically start to hit you before your reaction time kicks in. Wow. I should shoot at you. And lately I've been really, really thinking about this because I've died a lot to people on the console who play like this. And it's very, very common where you would never see you wouldn't do it on the PC because your aim, if you started down, your aim would stay down. So I'm wondering like if I guess people who are on consoles now are so used to it that you're like you're happy you have it, but are you happy you have it?
Well, I mean, for me,
you don't play multi, so it's a little
this is
different.
an argument of a professional player. Like, do you want to have a game that caters exclusively to a specific audience, or do you want to have a game that hits the mass market as much as you can? So for me, all auto assist is hey, it's a way to even the playing field between a 6-year-old and a person that's been playing this game nonstop.
6-year-olds should not be playing.
I mean, it's a way for them
Right.
to go let's hit the mass amount of people.
I
that we
thought
can.
they originally added it because of the transition for people to go to thumbsticks.
Yeah.
What I'm finding, though, are some of the people I play with are fucking retardedly good with thumbsticks and
now
maybe
you're-
don't need
yeah.
it anymore.
And I mean, but that's the thing is like that.
Seriously, they're
that's-
like way good.
But when they did that, I mean, it was literally 12 years ago that Halo came out. Like 12 years ago, nobody. They didn't
Well,
give
because
a
it was
shit.
like,
Like, yeah,
and
it's
that's what I
gonna
said.
get
It was
exploited.
outside
And there's
outside of GoldenEye, but GoldenEye didn't have auto assist. But
GoldenEye was totally different though because in GoldenEye you weren't aiming.
It had badass assist though.
It had badasses. No, in GoldenEye,
do you mean
GoldenEye
you
was
weren't
more
aiming? You were
akin to
aiming.
like a Doom where I would just turn and my gun was always pointed. I'd always just shoot you. If the pro
true.
move was to aim at your head or to aim up or down. That was the difference. Is GoldenEye was a game you could play with one stick, kind of
Sure,
like
sure,
Doom,
sure,
right?
sure.
Which you can pretty much Doom. You don't really need to aim up or down. You're always just aiming straight ahead,
Right.
and you'd walk up to somebody and then you'd shoot them and then you'd walk away. So it was all about those games were all about strafing and things like that to try and avoid, rather than ducking behind things.
I
and
think
things like
Halo
that.
2 was the first, outside of like GoldenEye doing the split screen thing, I think Halo was actually the first console multiplayer big experience for
Yeah.
people. I think they still probably hold that for sure. That was the first one I heard about on the console, people getting into Halo and playing it online against other people, and that was a pretty big thing. But segueing into games building on each other that hopefully are doing well. Did you guys watch? I posted it, and it's been out I think for a couple of days. The Battlefield 4, the first 17 minutes.
Yeah, it looks good, but the
Fucking
have you
retardedly
heard
good looking.
the response has been interesting.
I haven't read all the responses.
So the
on it.
responses from all the gaming magazines have been that it looks beautiful, and their big thing is like now we can finally show emotion in characters' faces because it looks so great and our engine's so robust. But everybody's
I thought faces were the worst part.
everybody's come down negative on it because they've said what a great engine that's wasted on a generic shooter. And that's what everybody's saying now. Is like, wow, DICE has made this incredible Frostbite engine, and they're wasting it on a shitty, just normal run-of-the-mill.
See, I
video
thought
game.
it was. I felt way more. I thought the Black Ops 2 single player was pretty good, immersive wise, like
Yeah.
with the environments and stuff. This engine clearly is better than what the Call of Duty franchises uses, hands down. The lighting, the
Yeah.
textures, everything. So to me, it was even more immersive. There's a part where a slow-mo, and they can do some really cool cinematic stuff, and I give it to the team who puts these together. Like, there's some great camera moves, and they do some really cool, like, pseudo GoPro moves that a guy's running at a helicopter, another helicopter comes over that one, shoots the ground out below him, and you go through this falling through a building kind of experience. That was it was blew me away, like how immersive it felt and looked. That all blew me away. I thought it just, from my standpoint, playing these games a lot out of the group, hands down, it just looks insane to me. Insane
No, I
to me,
think it looks
from a
beautiful.
single player standpoint.
I'm just very surprised that that's been the reaction. Like, it's such a weird thing of like, it's almost like
Is it-
looking at somebody who's dressed really nice and is like, God, you look beautiful for this shitty restaurant.
But
we're
is it the
going
same
to."
thing? And
You
I'm
know?
sure the guys
It's
who
so
are
funny.
into that would say the same thing if they had put out Skyrim 2. and it was like you fucking use that to just create plants and trees and a fucking dragon.
And I think that's the thing is I think it's funny. I feel like people are getting a little bit fatigued with shooters right now in the same way that they were with rhythm games a couple years ago. And maybe the thing I think they were with World War II shooters a couple years ago.
Sure.
And everything kind of transitioned. And now we've had almost probably the same amount of time with these modern shooters where I do feel like there might be a transition now where people are going, yeah, we're kind of like, okay, we've done all that we can do. This is the most beautiful fucking modern shooter we can make. Okay, what now? And I'm starting to, like, it just feels like that's the vibe because it is a really beautiful video. And I was really surprised that the reaction was so negative of like, no, this is really, I completely agree. This is a beautiful video for a fucking shitty game. You know, it was like very strange to read those reviews or those, I guess they're not reviews, but impressions, I guess.
Did you play Battlefield 3?
Yes, I played some of the multiplayer. I didn't play any of the single player.
Neither did I. I didn't even put the disc in for single player. I was like, yeah, no thanks.
No,
I'm
I
gonna play
played it
multiplayer.
on the PC actually. I didn't even try it on. This was the first one after I saw this video. I'm like, well, maybe I'll get this maybe I'll get it for the console. I want to see how this looks on the console. But like I said, I thought like comparatively, I think the fact there were no cinematics and that was all gameplay was fucking incredible to me the way it looked. And maybe that's just the artist in me. And what they're able to push on that engine.
It'll be interesting to see what it looks like on console because 3 looks great on console. Like I have it on the 360. It looks it's up to par with anything, but it's significantly like different from the PC in smaller maps, less things, like less objects in the world, less players.
So you saw it. Anybody else see it here?
I just watched the like minute-long teaser thing.
There's even some moments they try to like get your anxiety going. Like there's a moment where the option comes up like you need to cut the dude's leg off. He's
and
about
that's
to lose,
apparently
like,
what they're saying about with the new engine and stuff. Is there's a lot of like that's being part of the game now, and they're playing. And it was funny that they're playing up the single player, whereas the game was always a multiplayer game.
Sure.
And then they started pushing it with 3. They were like, oh, we're gonna compete with Call of Duty.
Well, this is
So
what I
they
thought was
started
interesting.
adding story
This is
to
why
it.
I was wondering if Jason had seen this because from a this was the first like kind of trailer gameplay that I actually was I was kind of excited about playing just a single player. Watching that 17 minutes, I'm like, that looks like a fucking fun single player. Like he cuts the leg off. There's another part where it's like, hey, dude, you got to leave me to die. Make sure or you're gonna kill everybody. Like I like sort of the options. They lead you to go one way, but there are a lot more like crude options, like life or death options compared to just like, well, some bad shit maybe could happen to us this way. It's like, no, dude, you got to cut my leg off now.
Yeah.
Get this done, and you got to go down there and they show it and they get a little graphic but from a first person or a single player standpoint, it looked kind of cool. So but Carter didn't see it, so I guess it doesn't matter. But I don't know. I thought it looked kind of cool.
Did any of you guys play Spec Ops The Line? Because I had heard, I was talking with some people yesterday. I didn't play it, but some of my friends yesterday were telling me that it is in the way that Call of Duty, when they would give you a mission, like in the single player, and they'd give you an option like, oh, do you want to go, stealth it up this ladder, or do you want to like brute force knock down the door? No matter which you chose, when you finished, they were like, right on, soldier, like you did the right thing, like good work stealthing up the ladder, like that. It didn't matter. But I guess in Spec Ops, there's a lot of those sort of choices, and like sometimes they're both terrible. And when you do them, the response is very muted and just like, oh my god, you killed a whole family of people like going through here. And that the game itself is you're a Delta Force like commando going after these like American paramilitary people. And so in the beginning it's like, you're killing you're killing terrorists or whatever you want to call it, like just the same fucking thing you do in any game. But then you start shooting other Americans that are like, because there's this miscommunication, like that it gets sort of like deep and like weird of like, holy shit, it's
Are
like...
they saying it's good? Are they saying
and
it's...
so they were saying it's really good and really different. Like they were like, it's really strange because it seems like the Call of Duties are so like rah-rah, like terrorists are the worst and fucking Americans are the best and you kill the terrorists. This one's like, yeah, we don't know. Like you're kind of this shitty guy and then these paramilitary guys maybe shouldn't be where they are, and like it ends up making you just feel uncomfortable. So it kind of reminded me of that video where there were those hard decisions to make, but this one looked like it was really just kind of like...
They're both shit decisions.
They're both shit, and it almost sounded like a fuck you to those kind of gamers. It's like, it's not just black and white, fuck you. Which sounds kind of funny to me.
So a non-shooter coming out that has me fucking crazy excited Jason Carter, Ducktales.
Woo!
Coming back. Actually, on like on multiple things. Like this story is about games. What I had heard, possible movie that they were talking about redoing with actual voices from the people who originally were in DuckTales.
All of the original voice cast has officially signed on to the game. I don't know anything about a movie, but I will tell you this: DuckTales is awesome. And I wasn't finished. That this is being made by Way Forward in Jack. You're in my hometown. It's actually being made approximately 2 miles from my house.
You're gonna go swing by and just say,
Thinking about it. I mean, like,
We're gonna camp out until they give us
got
jobs.
A pretty sweet Uncle Scrooge impression if you want to hear it.
Okay.
Sign me up.
Okay.
No, they're a really cool
Yeah.
studio.
No, wait. Hold on, guys. Yes, we do want to hear it.
I wasn't talking to you. I mean, I'm only going to release this impression to the world of Way Forward.
What else have they made? So I
They
don't know anything
did.
about them.
They've done actually a lot of really good. Or the yeah.
Oh, they
these
did
sort of games.
Contra?
They did Contra 4 for the DS, which was known as a very good Contra game. They did.
I don't know why I would have been more impressed if they had just done the original.
No, they did not do the original Contra. What else have they done? They've done a lot of games with Disney that have been some of the best games that they did.
Really?
What the heck is it?
Shentai is
yeah.
their like original IP thing.
Well, the original DuckTales game is one of the hardest games in the world to play, but also one of the funnest, in my opinion.
It's funny because I totally missed out on DuckTales. Like I didn't even understand.
Oh, for the NES?
So great.
And
Oh,
so
it's so
everyone
good.
talks about it, and everyone was excited. And actually,
It's
just
really hard.
recently was met the producer of this DuckTales game, and he was telling me about it. And I was like,
this new one.
of this new one, and I was like, because he's just across the way from us. We should have him on the show.
Sandbagging.
Is what's coming next. But I was talking to him, and he was like, yeah, Way Forward, because I really like Way Forward. I was like, oh, those guys are amazing. He's like, oh, they're doing this DuckTales game with us. And I was like, sweet, and totally thought it was a new game. And then when they announced this, I was like, oh, that's that DuckTales game that Mike's working on? And everybody around me was like, oh, my God, that game like changed my life. And I had no idea what it was.
It was such a
So,
fun game.
Way Forward Entertainment is founded in 1990 by Voldy Way, Voldi, who went to this. You can find all this on Wikipedia, but this piece you can't. He went to I'm blanking on the school. What's the school called?
MIT?
No, the school up near us. I'm completely.
Cal Arts?
Thank you very much. He went to Cal Arts and studied traditional 2D animation, and then sort of became known as one of the really solid 2D game makers. And so they've done a lot of the side-scrolling stuff, and if it's been like a legitimately good 2D side-scroller in the last 10 years, there's a good chance it probably came from them on a mobile platform. They've typically done
They did
handhelds, not
I think
mobile,
they did a
handhelds.
Boy and His Blob for
Yes.
the Wii, which was a really good remake. They have a really good track record of taking these games that were popular in like the NES days and doing fucking amazing sequels or remakes of them.
Yeah.
They did a Blood Rain.
And I just want to say that according to Wikipedia, DuckTales Remastered coming out summer of 2013 to Wii U, Xbox Live Arcade, and PlayStation Network. But potentially more important than
Followed by...
that, in later 2013 on the 3DS is Shanti and the Pirate's Curse.
Jason is clearly more excited. As soon as I looked over and saw it, I'm like,
Pirate.
he's probably not even going to mention DuckTales and go right to that.
No, DuckTales is awesome, and it's made in our own backyard, so props.
Can you not find an emulator? You need to play that original.
I
If you
just
get
didn't
a
know.
chance to play it.
You
Yeah,
go on
I probably have it.
VNES.com and
Yeah,
play 'em.
I probably have the ROM of it somewhere. I just didn't know that I played Aladdin, Lion King, all Mickey Mania, Castle of Illusion. I played a little bit, like all those games that are like, oh, these are those Disney games. Like Aladdin was Dave Perry, Mickey Mania was Dave Jaffe. Like, those. There was that time where it's like, oh, all these great
These were good,
people
yeah.
made Disney games, and I had grown up playing most of them. In DuckTales, I loved the show as a kid. I loved the movie as a kid. Totally, just didn't know.
It looks like until very recently, 2011, they've been exclusively a Nintendo developer.
They've done some iOS stuff,
Oh, the PC.
and yeah,
iOS has been.
they did a Shanti or Shanti, however you pronounce it. for
iOS was
iOS.
2010.
Yeah,
A lot of Nintendo.
A lot of
Have
Nintendo.
you? Did you play DuckTales, Sean?
I don't remember playing it. I watched the show, but I don't have any memory of that time.
Well, there's
being
something I
tough.
wanted to say.
Ducktales, woohoo.
Way into this thing. So Jack says it was a very hard game, and I remember it being pretty difficult when I was a kid. So the new God of War game just came out maybe like a couple weeks ago or something like that. And there's this one section of the game, I haven't played it, but it is extremely difficult. And, apparently people are just complaining so hard because this thing is just so incredibly hard. And like reading the reviews and listening to videos, they were saying that when you actually beat this section, it's very like rewarding. You're like, fuck yeah, like I did this thing. So, but because not a lot of people are passing this thing, they're patching the game to make this section easier so that people can actually play the game. So that I'm sitting there thinking back, I'm just like, shit, like what is a game that I just gave up on and didn't even finish playing because I just couldn't beat the game? And I started thinking, I'm like, okay, Contra. There's no way in fuck I could have ever beat Contra without the code.
Up, down, up, down.
The infamous,
AB.
the most known code ever in this entire universe. And I'm starting to think, I'm just like, okay, there was Contra. That was
Akari
really
Warriors, same thing.
All those
and like,
shmups.
yeah, and then Ninja Gaiden or Gaiden, however you want to pronounce it. For the Xbox, the first original Xbox was supposed to be extremely, extremely difficult. And I played through that, and I was just like, oh, this wasn't as bad as everybody thought, from what I heard. And so I started thinking, and I'm like, there's one game, though, that has been my nemesis, and I've never been able to beat it. And it was Battletoads on the original NES.
Yeah, fuck that
man.
game. Is
And
it one of
so-
those fucking flying sections?
Yes.
Yeah, fuck that.
So I wanted to
noise.
ask everybody, what is the one game that is the hardest game that you have played that you've just basically, given up on? So mine, like I said, it is Battletoads. There's a section where you're like on these like flying they look like Sea-Doo jet skis or something like that, and you're in this cave, and you just had to have like reflexes of fucking, Spider-Man, and it was just you couldn't do it, and you only had like 3 lives, and if you didn't get the 3 lives, and you were fucked, and you had to start over again, and it was just this atrocious thing, and I never ever could beat it.
I don't remember, but I do have a little funny story about Battletoads. Apparently, when the show Pawn Stars.
Yeah.
Apparently, there's a group of people on the internets that call up pawn stores on a daily basis and ask them if they sell Battletoads, and that it happens so often that when they do it, the guys are like, "Ah, fucking again," and they hang up on them. Like, this happens constantly.
Really?
Yeah.
What the fuck is that? Like,
Yeah.
who had that idea?
The
I
same,
don't
the
know,
same
but
guys
it's
who go to
awesome.
fucking Apple stores and call and FaceTime.
right. I am the wrong person
No
to make that
comment.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
So
by
do you
the
have
way.
a game?
I'm a shitty game player. I think one of the games
like
that I
all of
could not beat was Grand Theft Auto 4. There's this one part where you have to go and stop this drug deal and steal the drugs and leave, and you're on a little peninsula strip. And as soon as you do it, the freaking FBI and their
I remember that one.
Yeah, the FBI and their SUVs show up, and I got toward the end. It took 3 hours, and I was so close, and then my car exploded, and I was like, well, fuck, this is never happening again. And I couldn't finish playing that game. That's one of a very long run of games.
Oh yeah, I mean,
that I
because
was awful at.
there's tons of things. I mean, like Final Fantasy VII. I was so excited, and I spent half my life. It felt like getting to this final boss. Did the final boss, which took me 4 hours, to play this guy because his XP was 1,000,000, and every time I'd hit it'd be 12. And I'm just shit. So I'm sitting there, just keep summoning all these things, and it goes on. I'm serious. I think it was in there 6 hours just doing the one boss battle.
This is a real war.
And I died, and I'm like, oh, I can't do that again. There's no way I can. I don't know what else to do, what I can do to do these sort of things. And same thing with your car blowing up. There's a game, Stuntman.
Oh, I remember that game.
For PlayStation. And it was one of those things where, based on kind of physics-y sort of thing where you're just I clipped it, and you're driving this car and you're just all of a sudden you lose control and you're just fucking, it's cut, do it again, and you're just
you have to start from the
Well, it
beginning.
was one of
From
those
the
things that
beginning.
you could beat it on 1 star, but
Yeah.
you never wanted to leave it at 1 star, and to get the 3 was it's
Oh,
fucking,
I know the fucking
every
game.
star had a line up.
Rainbow Six. If you played Rainbow Six without any of the aim assist or help, it was literally impossible. You had to be a fucking SEAL team guy with those reflexes to beat that game.
The
It was
hostages would get
ridiculous.
shot instantly.
Instantly.
I
Exactly.
I hadn't even thought about those games. There's a couple of those.
What about you, Kearney?
I have a game that I played a ton as a kid and then realized that I was an idiot, and this is why I never beat this game, was X-Men for the Sega Genesis. So X-Men was an interesting game where it was played on a Genesis cart, and if you played the game on, I guess no matter what difficulty you played it, at a certain point, they wanted you to reset the cart. And you didn't eject the game. You pressed reset. And it's very important that you didn't power down. You pressed reset. And I forget how it worked, but it was something with the way that the game was encoded on the cartridge. It actually, like, flipped something when you hit reset.
Does it tell you really to hit reset?
Yeah. I swear to God. You get to a point in the game, in the middle of the game, you fight, I think it's Juggernaut. And then after it works it into the narrative of the game. Like,
Holy
you
shit,
have to
I remember
reset.
this.
I fucking read it wrong and thought that I had played it on the wrong difficulty and that if you played it on anything but hard, you could only play half the game. So I played the game on like easy or medium, made it to that part, and was like, fuck this. And fucking turned off my console and then played it again on hard and could never get back to that point. And just recently, not recently, but like a few years ago, I was reading something online and they were talking about how weird it was. I think they were talking about how, like, taking technical limitations and actually putting them in the narrative or something. Some stupid thing about video games that, like, made me feel like I was smart. Like we're going to put a bunch of big words in an article about a fucking Sega game you couldn't beat, you moron. And anyways, they mentioned that and I flipped shit because I was like, I could have beaten that stupid game, and I to this day remember that moment in my life, like sitting there going, "Oh fuck! What? I didn't know. I would have played it on hard."
I wonder if that's still in the ROM.
Yeah,
you downloaded the ROM. Did anyone here ever play Moonwalker on the Genesis? Did
Yeah.
anyone ever beat it?
Nope.
I don't remember.
I
don't
don't think, I'm pretty sure that game either had no ending or was just impossible to beat. Because you get to a point and you're like, I don't even know what to do.
Then
now.
they just
I
keep
don't-
going. Yeah, then they just
I don't
keep
know
coming.
what to do in this game.
I don't mine. You brought up Ducktales. I honestly think that was one that I never beat. Wow. And I think that is on the list of like I think there's a couple lists out there of hardest games ever. There's like that. There's I also played Addams Family. What's his name? And that
Fester's Revenge.
Fester's Revenge, and it has no saves. So you can only play it on the lives you have. That never got beat. Matter of fact,
That game
I
sucks,
stopped
by the way.
I stopped within an hour and a half when I realized you could never save because I realized it's probably damn near impossible.
I bought that game at a swap meet and like brought it home and was like, I like that movie, and I played this game for an hour and a half and was like, this is terrible. This is nothing like the movie. It was like some shitty Zelda clone, but it sucked.
I've also given up recently on some of the Spec Op missions. and in the Call of Duty series of just if by myself and playing on 3-star, I'm just not. I'm not that good. I'm much better against people who can make flaws and mistake. These two though, Jason and Adam though, can play against computer people like I've never seen in my life. Me and Josh will go in there, or better yet, me and Sean will go in there, and I know we've told the story. Sean ends up walking the other way in the submarine and never finds his way out, and the timer runs out.
I think we've established that I'm a shitty gamer, but on top of that, I'm an angry shitty gamer, and that never helps.
Yeah.
What about you,
Adam?
Jason or Adam?
Man, I don't even. I'm trying to think what some of the most frustrating ones. Stuntman was absolutely some of those moments. The Spec Ops, I mean, we ended up beating them, but I remember sitting at the same
The one where in the
mission.
back of the Jeep.
Yes, the same mission for probably, hours.
Was that Modern Warfare
3.
3?
Yeah, and it was in the back of a Jeep.
No,
and
I think we probably spent easily 6 hours on that one mission.
Yeah, and you're literally, it's like, and we would die within,
me and
we'd
Josh
either die
did that
within
one
minutes
night.
or get right up to the end and then die. It was either like you died right away or everything aligned and then you got to the end and we never played that part and then we just died. It was like, what the fuck?
But that's the best. I feel like that's the best way to keep you going is one of those two, right? Because the one is like, oh well, that was quick. I'll play again, and then the other one is like,
Mulligan.
I was almost there.
Yeah.
Let me.
I feel like
one
the
more
game
time.
knows too. It's like, okay, they made it this far. We need to give them a couple of quick deaths. Get them like, oh fuck, that didn't count. We'll keep playing.
Yeah.
And then it's like, we'll just turn it down to maybe like a 4 on the difficulty. Let them get a little further, and then ramp it up. And
The
fuck
problem
you.
at 3 stars on those missions, they don't miss. Obviously,
Yeah.
what they're doing is they're increasing accuracy, and they tend to add more players. The accuracy, though, is what fucks you. The things you can get away with 1 and 2 stars, where you can just run around and maybe you can do some different stuff and get creative. 3 stars, they hit you. If they see you, you're taking shots.
The best part about those, I just remember
like Jason and I would literally like it'd be those levels, and you'd be like, okay, there's gonna be one guy there. Okay, it's instinct now. It's like you know the first 40 guys where they're gonna be. And you're like kill. Okay, holy shit, I don't know what's gonna happen. I'm dead.
Yep.
We're like, okay, now I know where the next 41 guys are gonna come from, and next to the 42 guys. All right, somehow you maybe jump to like 50, and then all of a sudden you're like, fuck this, we gotta take a break.
I mean, I would say it's even further. Like by the time you've gone, through that maybe. I don't know, 2 dozen times, something like that, you realize you know the whole pattern. And then that takes you maybe a half hour to an hour.
Yeah.
And then the rest of the 5 is spent trying different weapons, different strategies.
Yeah.
Like, where every guy's going to come from for the next 5 hours. It's not a surprise at all.
Yeah.
I have to say, though, there is a very special place in my heart, just a kind of an elation watching my son beat his first game all the way through on his own. Which was it's just
game
awesome.
was
it was Super Mario Brothers, Super Mario Brothers for the Wii.
The red one.
Yeah, and now he can beat it in like 4 hours straight. Just like oh, there's Bowser, jumped out the thing. Oh, he's coming after me. Big deal. And it's like watching
It's a speed
magician.
test for him, and
It's
put him on
fucking
YouTube.
crazy,
Yeah, exactly.
man.
But I mean, like games like that now, they cater to so many different age groups, and like they do kind of the auto saves, and
Don't
games
downplay
are
my shit. Don't downplay my shit.
no. But I'm just saying, like as a kid, like when you play Nintendo, the memory that like this system had to do these things, and the games that they, or the like I said, 3 lives, no saves, type of thing and stuff. Like, did you guys ever play like it was The Simpsons? Bart Simpsons
versus the space aliens.
Yeah.
That game was fucking brutal too.
Yeah, I could only get to level 2.
Yeah.
And I couldn't beat.
Yeah.
you
Well,
get
no
to the
one in this
mall.
room beat Super Mario the first time.
Well,
fucking
no.
through.
In fact, I just recently went back and tried
Straight
to
up.
play it without the warp pipes, and I can get to the final castle, but it's a clusterfuck because it's all about patterns, and you have to like figure out the right pattern in the right amount of time, and it's super hard. But I mean, like that game had all those warp pipes, which essentially to me are like early save points, right? Like.
But
go
you
to
didn't
warp
get
pipes
extra
to get it.
lives unless you could do the turtle jump, which was
crazy hard
Which was
to
the
do.
way though that I finally was able to beat it. Oh, dude, when they give you those crazy ass icons on the back, you're like, it's glitching, it's glitching.
But the
Dude,
thing is-
I showed my son a video of that on YouTube, and he's like, "How does that happen? How can they do that?" It's like it's called a glitch, buddy.
But no, the thing with those games, though, is I feel like those games came from the arcade mentality of making games, which was, well, we need to fuck
Put
you over
quarters in.
because we need to get more quarters in. And then as more and more people get to consoles and like they already have your $60, it's like, well, why fucking punish you now, right? Like now it's like, hey, you know what? You
Which
paid
is why I
$60.
get
Get to
pissed
the end.
if there's an actual like really really hard
Yeah.
game. I'm like, I'm fucking.
They wanna
bought
see
this,
the
and
end of the
it's-
game.
Jason Carter.
Let me beat you.
Yes.
Jason Carter.
What was your toughest game?
Let me win.
He's still looking for it.
No, I found it. So, awesome. So you can actually play this game on an emulator. So 1992 on DOS was a game called The Island of Dr. Brain, which was an, let me quote,
really
an
familiar.
educational puzzle adventure game.
It's all they had in Bakersfield.
It's Luminosity from 1992.
Was that on ColecoVision?
So this isn't actually my real answer, by the way. But this thing had 2 modes. It had like, I can't remember. It was like adventure mode, and then it was like puzzle guru mode or something. But the whole idea is like you'd open in order to open a door in this, like this bad guy lives on this island. You have to get to him or whatever, and you find the island. And in order to get to his lair, you have to go through all these rooms. And so to open the front door of this like castle thing he lives in, it's like you've got a 1-gallon container and a 3-gallon container, and you have to build you have to find 19 gallons. How do you do this? And it's like, or whatever, like those types of things that are crazy. And Bruce Willis solves when
You have a 1-gallon container and a 2-gallon container, and you have to build a bridge.
Yes,
What?
exactly. And then like
Okay.
the very next one will be the Towers of Hanoi. You know what those are? Where there's like a pyramid of discs and three poles, and you have to like.
Size order.
You have to put them in the right size, and a big one can't be on a small one, blah, blah, blah. Move them all the right side. It's like, so it was like hundreds of those. Hundreds of them. And I beat it all in the original mode or whatever, and then went into hardcore mode, and it was like 2 puzzles in. It was like, this is Sudoku before it was popular or whatever. I don't know what this is. It's a grid of numbers. And I just started plugging numbers, and I stopped. But my official real answer, I am an incredibly stubborn gamer. I will play something hundreds and hundreds of times and not care. Like, it'll be fine. Like Halo 4 on Legendary Solo, beat that. And it was... there were levels that I probably restarted 50, 60 times, and it was just like, it's cool, it's a challenge. Like, I'm going to do this. But there's one game that is so difficult for me, I gave up. And that was the very first Red Link's... Trials.
That's
Very first
exactly what I
Trials.
was just going to say. That is exactly what I was
So
just
much
gonna
so
say.
that I was so disappointed. Like, you get, like, it's like easy is cake, and then there's like medium, and you're like, ooh, that's, and then partway through hard, it's just so difficult. And you did it all, right? You beat the expert ones?
No.
So,
That was what I was going to say, because I was just going to bring up that I had one expert one where I had restarted within the same level 1,500 times.
Does it tell you like?
Oh
how
yeah,
many
oh
times?
yeah. It tells you how many restarts,
And then it goes,
and it was like, and that was one of those games that's like everything goes right, and all of a sudden you're like, I didn't lean back, you fucking game. I didn't lean back. I don't know what the hell happened. And
When you're talking to the game like that, you've gone too far.
I have not
game's
wanted
brutal.
to smash my controller into my TV so bad as that game has made me.
And
want
it's
to.
such a good game, and that
is.
makes it even worse.
Yeah.
Because you really want to see what comes next, because
Yeah.
it's so fucking good.
Yeah.
But it's so fucking
Yeah,
hard.
and it's like the easy, medium, hard. I wouldn't move on until I got is it 3 stars or whatever. Expert, I just would move on.
There's the old Ducktales.
Expert, I would move on regardless of how many times it took me to restart.
But so what's funny to me about Trials is, like, that was a known problem. Like, the community responded to the developer and said, you have made this game way too hard. So what do? They put out a sequel.
and it's just as hard.
I mean, supposedly they
played it.
made it a little bit better, but
It's still very, very,
yeah,
very, very
see,
difficult.
I don't. It didn't interest
And you
me.
watched it. You can go in and like watch videos, and you're like,
Because it's
fuck
one of
are
those
you doing
physics-based games where it's just like you hit,
yeah.
and it's just, to me, it's just like
What's so
playing
funny
Stuntman.
is, like, the
Yeah.
sequel's harder, by the way.
It
and
is.
not because the game is harder, but because they put so the first game takes place in a warehouse,
Yeah.
and the second game takes place in like all these crazy ass
And
places.
the camera does this weird.
And the camera moves
like,
around.
Like you're still a side scroller,
Yeah.
but it's somehow mapped to a little bit of a sphere, and so the camera's doing this like sphere move, and you're like, what the?
And sometimes you're in shadows and
Yeah.
stuff, so it's like it's so cool looking, but it gets in the way of actually being fun.
Well, see, that's exactly it to me. This is what I find really interesting: is you want a game to be challenging to the point where you don't get through it in 2 hours. Like, it puts up a challenge, and you get lots of hours of entertainment for your dollar.
No, I don't.
However,
10,
you,
15 max. I
you
wanna beat
don't
that shit.
you don't want to cross the line. And for me, like, again, I'm an incredibly stubborn gamer. I will stick with something for a long time,
And you get the most out of your games though too. Like whatever the challenge is, you
I'll
want
play-
want the max. If it's coins, you want the max coins. If
Oh,
it's
yeah.
hearts, you want the max hearts. Like,
Absolutely. I'm like, I go all out. I try and collect every collectible. Like, I'm into and it is literally the only game. I mean, besides maybe the super puzzle game from when I was 8 years old. But it's the only game that I've ever actually not beaten, and it wasn't. It got to a point where it wasn't even a challenge. Like,
It just was impossible.
Exactly. Like, it got to the point where it's like, oh yeah, it's a challenge, and I'm so motivated to do it. And then after restart number 1,000, it's just like, I don't think this is fun. Like, this isn't a challenge. It's not possible.
Yeah, I remember.
but yet you know people have done it.
I'm
right?
amazed that it
I'm
takes
sure you can go to YouTube and
1,000
see it.
tries before you reach that point.
See, that's what I'm saying. I'm
done
an
after
incredi-
like 20.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
like, all right.
I remember.
I'm persistent.
I remember playing it, and it's one of those games that I can like. Any game I'm serious about, I can't like sit back on my couch. Like, I can't lay down
Yeah.
and play.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I can't sit in bed and play. And so I was sitting in bed, and the girlfriend, she was sleeping, and so I had the headphones on, and I'm sitting there playing. Just listening to music, and I don't realize I'm doing this, but literally I'm jamming the things back and forth so loud that I've woken her up. Because I'm just like, just trying to get this thing to, like, the damn bike to do what I want it to do. And she, like, looks over and says, what the hell are you doing? And I, like, take the headphones on. I'm
having fun!
I'm like, what?
I'm really enjoying myself, goddammit!
What even my joystick? She's like, what the heck? Because I'm literally like, if you played the game, you're like, I just gotta get over this fucking stone, and then there's a checkpoint. I can see it. Go back to sleep.
Because that is the worst
Or
thing
I
about
will
that
put you to
game.
sleep.
It's like you're sitting there
get
like on a
stuck
ledge.
on
and you're like,
things. Yeah.
I've never played that. I've never played that game. It's a physics-based game, isn't it?
You're on a
Don't
dirt
waste your
bike
time.
motorcycle, but it's
there's
more a
some awesome
platforming
levels.
game
There's
than a
some fun
racing
levels.
game.
You can play it in my house. I'm sure I still have it around. It's a big waste of money.
It's fucking.
I'm gonna go home and
it's
play
great,
it tonight
but
in
it's
bed.
like,
with my headphones on.
but it doesn't put you out of your misery a lot. So you'll end up like on the edge of a rock, just like leaning forward, leaning back, leaning forward, trying to like propel yourself over this rock. Whereas I'd much rather just fucking die and then just start over. You know what I mean? Like it gets to a point where I'm like, well, I'm already here. I don't want to give up.
I've gotten to the point in trials where the bike has completely spun over so you're resting on the shoulders and back of the head of the character, and you're thrashing his neck back and forth,
Until
trying to
he
get the
dies.
bike to
Back
flop
up.
back up.
The worst ones is the tournaments.
I'm pretty
where
sure
you
I
have to
played
do
this game for like
you
2
have to do
minutes,
multiple.
and I was like, yeah, this is
you have to do
pointless.
multiple levels, and like none of the levels are hard on their own. But like to get the gold star, you have to go through like 7 or 8 levels without restarting once, and you'll literally go through 7, and you'll be in the middle of the other one, and it's like 30 or 40 minutes of trials in stuff, and you get to that and you restart, and you're like. Oh, fuck.
That's Fester's.
I'm pretty sure.
There's no point. I'm not going to do that.
So if I had to name it right now, you two would survive in the wild just out of sheer will of wanting to get something to work.
Right?
I would be dead because the first night I couldn't get a fire started in an hour, and I'd be like, "Fuck it, never mind."
On that note,
And you walk into the darkness.
on that note, fuck it, we're out.
Never mind.
Nerdtastic in 3